Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. More Ukrainians fleeing the country as Russia continues its invasion for the sixth day. Government and opposition providing support for Jamaican students affected by Russia-Ukraine conflict. And later in sports, South Africa preserved their record of never losing a test series in New Zealand after a resounding 198-run win in the second test. I'm Shane Masters, and here are the news in detail. Ukrainians and other nationals are still trying to flee the country as Russia continues its invasion for the sixth day. The Russian military has been trying to gain control of Ukraine's major cities. But while they flee for their lives, another crisis is on the horizon. The United Nations says more than 500,000 people have fled Ukraine to neighboring countries, especially to Poland. We join the CNN for more.
Some of these stories, as you can imagine, in fact, all of these stories are absolutely heartbreaking. And among these horrendous stories of fear and of bombs falling, you also have a segment of the population that was living in Ukraine who are students, who are foreign nationals, and they have been going through unimaginable waiting times. In fact, let me just show you what I mean, because the line here, and we've been here since last night, has not moved at all. And if we just go and ask most of the people in this line how long they have been waiting out here for, keeping in mind that these temperatures go below freezing. I'm sorry, can I ask you all, how long have you been waiting here now?
From last 6 days.
6 days.
From 7 a.m.
And how long have you been waiting here?
More than a week. How long time?
Since it began. 4 days.
No, more. 5.
I mean, and the line here isn't moving at all. And a lot of these young men, when they try to get on the trains or the buses, they're told that they can't do that. They're actually having to walk to get here, and it takes hours. And as I was saying, the temperatures are freezing cold. On the other side of this street here, you have the line for Ukrainians. And for those who are mostly women and children, and looking over on this side is just as heartbreaking because everybody in that line is either there without their husband, father, or brother because they have to stay behind, or they have come with them and they're waiting these last final hours together before they have to say goodbye.
More support has been pouring out for the Jamaican students affected by the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This as the opposition says it has organized a team of psychiatrists and psychologists to support the students. The government also says it's making efforts to find university places for them. Sandra Williams reports.
24 of the Jamaican students who arrived in Poland Sunday night have now been booked on a flight from Frankfurt, Germany to Montego Bay, Jamaica. That assurance from Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith on Monday evening. The students fled the Eastern European country as Russia invaded. Mrs. Johnson-Smith outlined the arrangements being made for the students' arrival in Jamaica.
We've arranged transportation from Montego Bay to Kingston for those who need it. We've also liaised with the Ministry of Health to ensure that counseling will be available for those who wish it, not on spot, but at the time that they might feel best able to process and to have those discussions.
In an earlier statement, the opposition People's National Party said it has organized a team of psychologists to support the students who may have been affected by the conflict and feel the need for those services. Party President Mark Golding said he has secured the commitment of 6 psychiatrists to provide counseling services to the students. The services are available electronically to the students who crossed the border into neighboring countries such as Poland and Romania, students who are still in Ukraine, and those who have returned to Jamaica. Meanwhile, the students have expressed concern for their future, given uncertainties about whether they will be able to continue their studies. Mrs. Johnson-Smith assured that the government is making efforts to find university places for them. However, she adds that there are no guarantees.
We had engaged UA early in this process. We'll re-engage them to see if there's any possibility at all of accommodation. And we'll also reach out to bilateral partners to see if they have any programs in place which will be seeking to accommodate students who have been disrupted from their studies in Ukraine specifically. There are no guarantees, of course, but there may well be, and we will explore them.
Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
2 men are now in custody in relation to yesterday's gunfight at the Seaboard Wharf in Montego Bay, St. James. The men were listed as the receivers of the shipment, which originated from Miami. 7 firearms and 16 rounds of 9mm cartridges were seized. It's understood the members of the Customs Department were carrying out routine inspections of shipped cargo when they observed abnormal shapes in a television. A more detailed check was made and it was realized that items were stored inside the televisions. The police were alerted, and during a search of all 3 television sets that were part of a shipment, the following guns were found: 1 RR Armory rifle, 1 AK-15 rifle, 1 Ruger submachine gun, 2 Taurus 9mm pistols, 1 Koenig 9mm pistol, and 1 Ruger 9mm pistol, along with 8 magazines and 16 rounds of 9mm cartridges. Now, while major crimes are down in the parish of St. Anne, the police still have their hands full in other areas like break-ins. But Deputy Superintendent of Police in charge of crime for St. Anne, Linton Bailey, says with the use of technology and DNA in their investigations, the lawmen have been reaping success. Shamala Pullen reports.
Since the start of this year, St. Anne has recorded 8 murders. Deputy Superintendent of Police in charge of crime for St. Anne, Linton Bailey, says this is an 11% reduction when compared to the same period last year.
In recent weeks, that's last week, we had some significant successes where the murder of Mr. Leroy Green, which was committed on the 10th of February in the Steertown area. 1 person was taken into custody and arrested and charged. There's another person in custody being processed with the intention of laying charges against him.
DSP Bailey says the police also recovered 4 firearms. However, break-ins continue to be a challenge.
In the Brownstone Police District, where we had a series of break-in, we had a significant breakthrough last week, where 1 person was arrested, a quantity of goods seized, and he was arrested for 4 break-ins in the town. We are looking at other break-ins with a view of making arrests in these regards.
The police are also on the hunt for wanted men. DSP Bailey says they have been taking a different approach to fighting crime, and it has been successful.
In relation to crime, we have improved our road policing. We are employing the use of technology, DNA, and this has resulted in significant breakthrough, especially even in the case of Mr. Leroy Green, as I mentioned before, in Steertown.
Shemada Pullen, TVJ News.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Head of the National Integrity Commission, NIA, Professor Trevor Monroe, is this afternoon insisting that the government needs to strike a balance between public interest and reputational damage in Jamaica. It follows a ruling by the UK Supreme Court against the publication of the identity of a person under investigation by a regulatory body. It's a move that could also strengthen the government's insistence on maintaining the gag clause in the Local Integrity Commission Act. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck has since maintained that there is a right to privacy, but Mr. Monroe believes otherwise.
We have to ensure, as far as possible, that damages are not done to reputations. Of course, we agree there must be a balance, but there cannot be an absolute gag, a statutory bar on the Integrity Commission saying yea or nay when a matter is being investigated. The clause as it stands now must be amended or deleted.
Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Senator Matthew Samuda, says Jamaica remains committed to its environmental protection targets. Mr. Samuda says given the global plastic crisis, the government of Jamaica supports a proposal through the United Nations Environmental Assembly, UNEA 5.2, to establish an intergovernmental negotiating committee on plastics. The NIC guides and coordinates the implementation of UNEA resolutions in place since 2014. Mr. Samuda says Jamaica will build on its efforts to reduce plastic pollution under the phased ban on single-use plastics, which commenced in 2019, and will continue to work with the multilateral community to deal with the scourge of plastic waste definitely. Now, he was speaking at the resumed fifth session of the United Nations Environmental Assembly, UNEA, which is now underway in Nairobi, Kenya.
Agenda, which seeks to achieve 100% sustainable ocean management areas within its national jurisdiction and sustainable ocean plans by 2020-25, and to target protection of 30% of our ocean by 2030.
Among the country's international biodiversity and blue economy commitments, Mr. Samuda adds the declaration of a section of the Pedro Bank as a protected area, which is expected to be accomplished this year. He further noted that Jamaica is also actively engaged in restoration programs for several key marine and coastal ecosystems, including mangrove forests, seagrass beds, and coral reefs. Farmers in St. Thomas are being warned against using the slash-and-burn method to carry out their trade. The call follows a fire in a section of the parish over the weekend, which got out of control. No one was injured in the blaze, and the fire was quickly brought under control by firefighters. But this word from the Yallas Fire Department.
We just want to take this opportunity to implore to the farmers that slash and burn in windy conditions can be very dangerous. Given the right circumstances, the fire will spread. So I just want to take the precaution, consult the brigade whenever you want to engage in this kind of activity, and everything should be okay.
Residents in Hanover are taking the National Water Commission, NWC, to task over the lack of water in their community. The residents say things would have been better if the NWC communicated better with them. Here's Codian Barrett with that report.
Downed trees, sticks and stones were used to block the Shuttlewood Main Road in Hanover on Monday. The source of the residents' frustration? No water. They told our news team that they have been consistent with their payments to the National Water Commission, NWC, but the entity has failed to provide the commodity.
1 month now we not get no water. Pure promising. We need water. See kids them now, they can't go to school. I wipe up me if you wipe up, sir. Wednesday I pay my water rate and I'm not working. I'm source of food and pay my bills. I need water to bathe. I love to bathe. I love to be fresh. 4 weeks now I'm in a wash clothes.
The residents say since they've stopped getting water, there has been no word from the National Water Commission explaining the lack of the commodity in the community.
Representation, that is the main thing. We don't have nobody to represent us. Communication sucks when it comes to Water Commission, because this has been happening from last year and it has not changed since. So we need persons to come in and talk to us because our bills are not being reduced.
In the meantime, Councillor for the Chester Castle Division, Farron de Carish, says the situation is dire as some 30 districts have been affected. He says he has had a dialogue with the water company.
At the moment, they are trying to fast-track the problem that they have at the pump station. So I guess in another few days or so, the water should be back and ready as scheduling. But at the moment, they plan to truck water to the various communities and to get it on a schedule for the division.
It's a farming community, right? And we have animal, so we need some water. We need the government.
Codian Barrett, TVJ News.
And for the latest in the economy, here's Codian Barrett with the Business Minute.
Petrojam will likely have to reevaluate its projections for the new fiscal year as the Ukraine-Russia crisis intensifies and oil exceeds $100 per barrel. The recently tabled Public Bodies report shows that the state-owned oil refinery has set the average cost per barrel for the 2022-23 fiscal year at $79.36. That was a lower estimate from $82.36 for the current fiscal year. But with oil for delivery in May already exceeding $95 a barrel, the estimate will likely be revised. For the upcoming fiscal year, Petrojam hopes to sell more petroleum products. The company is targeting sales of 12.89 million barrels compared to an estimated 12.69 million barrels for 2021-2022. And in business internationally, the International Energy Agency, IEA, is set to hold an extraordinary ministerial meeting today to discuss what role its members can play in stabilizing oil markets. The international benchmark was trading up 3.12% at $100.99 per barrel. West Texas Intermediate WTI crude rose 0.74% to $96.43 a barrel. Announcements by major oil and gas companies to exit Russian operations and joint ventures has led to concerns in the market. With the Business Minute, I'm Cody-Ann Barrett.
And time now for the top regional and international stories with Sandy Williams.
In the region, the Barbados National Registry BNR says colorectal cancer and other preventable cancers are on the rise in the country. BNR said cancer of the colon and rectum, often grouped as colorectal cancer, is the third leading type of cancer globally and continues to be the case in Barbados as well. Additionally, it is the third leading cause of cancer-related deaths. It said the number of cases diagnosed locally rose from 124 in 2008 to 163 in 2015, and that there were 66 deaths from this type of cancer in 2008 and 98 deaths recorded in 2015. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Sandy Williams.
Thanks, Sandy. We head to a quick break. When we come back, Renata Brown will have your midday sports report.
Welcome back. It's now time for your midday sports. The West Indies women will go into the ICC 50 Over World Cup on the back of 4 straight defeats after going down by 81 runs in their second and final warm-up game on Tuesday against India. Batting first, India women posted 258 all-out from their 50 overs. The Indians had lost Shafali Verma for a 2-ball duck, but Shriti Mandana, who top-scored with 66 and Deepti Sharma 51, shared in a 117-run second wicket stand to steady the team. Krishma Ramarak, Cherian Fraser and Haley Matthews all had 2 wickets, while Jamaican Chanel Henry had 1 for 25 from 6 overs. Now, with 259 to get, the Caribbean women were kept to 177 for 9. Shemaine Campbell top-scored with 63, while Haley Matthews made 44. Pooja Vastrakar ended with 3 for 21. The players will now turn their attention to their opening game of the World Cup against host New Zealand on March 4. And South Africa preserved their record of never losing a test series in New Zealand after a resounding 198-run win in the second test at Christchurch to square their series at 1-1 against New Zealand. Resuming the day at 94 for 4 and chasing an improbable 426 to win, New Zealand's innings ended after tea at 227 all out. Devon Conway top-scored with 92 against 3 wickets each from man of the match Kagiso Rabada, Marco Jensen and Keshav Maharaj. South Africa pocketed 12 World Test Championship points to put them 4th on the table with 36 from 5 matches. Scores in that game, South Africa 364 all out and 354 for 9 declared. New Zealand 293 and 227 all out. In football, Everton have received an apology from the head of the professional referees body, Mike Riley, after they were denied a penalty in the 1-0 defeat by Manchester City on Saturday. The Toffees wrote to the Premier League to complain about the decision when Manchester City midfielder Rodri seemed to use his arm to control the ball. Neither referee Paul Tierney nor video assistant referee Chris Kavanagh deemed it was worthy for a spot kick despite complaints from fans and Everton boss Frank Lampard. Everton are 17th in the table, 1 place and a point above Burnley, who host Leicester City in the Premier League today at 2:45. Should Burnley win, it means Everton will join Watford and Norwich City in the relegation zone. And finally, Ja Morant scored a franchise-high 52 points, breaking the record he set 2 days ago to lead the Memphis Grizzlies to victory over the San Antonio Spurs. Point guard Morant landed 22 of 30 field goal attempts, setting another Grizzly record in the 118-105 win. And Giannis Antetokounmpo recorded his 5th consecutive double-double as the Milwaukee Bucks defeated the visiting Charlotte Hornets to end a 2-game losing streak. The two-time MVP returned 26 points, 16 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 blocks, while landing all 14 of his efforts from the free throw line. Elsewhere, rookie Scotty Barnes tied a career high of 28 points as the Toronto Raptors won 133-97 against the Brooklyn Nets in New York. Also on the night, Timberwolves defeated Cavaliers 127-122. The Magic had a 119-103 win over the Pacers. Heat were 112-99 winners over the Bulls, and Thunder went down 110-131 to the Kings. And that's it for your midday sports report. Shane, it's back to you.
Thanks, Renata. Just before we go, though, Russia invading Ukraine, but the sports teams are facing a heavy backlash.
Yeah, big decision from FIFA and UEFA yesterday to ban Russian teams from their competition. So Shamar Nicholson, who plays for Spartak Moscow, joined them in the winter transfer window. That's a big blow for him, not being able to play in the Europa League. But Russia will miss out on the Men's World Cup and the Women's Euro, and that's massive.
And that's where we end the Midday News for today. I'm O'Shane Masters. Join us at 7 for Primetime News on behalf of the news, sports and production teams. Have a good afternoon.